Well, this is the video where there'll be a lot of pointing and laughing at me. So feel free to point and laugh. Greetings fellow Vita fans, this is James with PS Vita at 2 AM, coming at you once again with another exciting video. And if you're new here and love everything PlayStation Vita, don't forget to subscribe and make sure to leave me your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section, as well as some suggestions because today is all about guilty pleasures. The following games I'm about to list here are exactly just that, guilty pleasures for me, for various reasons which I'll get into as the video progresses. Let it be known though that I am very embarrassed for liking these, but I'd love to know what games out there are guilty pleasures to you. Make sure to leave me your list down below. But not before you all point and laugh at me, because believe me, you will be pointing and laughing at me by the time this is done. Okay, the first game that I feel very embarrassed for liking is PlayStation Vita Pets. This one probably is a pretty obvious one. When you first look at this title, you probably would think to yourself at a glance that this is just a carbon copy of the whole Nintendo franchise that used to be a thing back on the DS, and thus it might be a little bit geared more towards a younger audience, i.e. kids, and also i.e. a demographic I share an IQ with. In other words, I'd have no chance at winning this particular game show. And while, yeah, I guess you probably could say that about this game, there was actually a lot more to it than first meets the eye. Because when I first saw this game, I thought it was just going to be, about having to groom your pets, pamper them, give them some exercise, feed them, all the basic stuff. Basically a pet simulator. And again, yes, this game does indeed have that, but you might be surprised to know it also has a full-fledged storyline to go with it, with voice acting from the dogs. Gotta say, I wasn't expecting that at the very least, but in all honesty, it kind of makes the game even more awesome. If nothing else, a little bit creepy. And to explain that, we'll just say it's aliens. You all think it's aliens? Because I think it's aliens. So the way the gameplay goes in this is that your dog will have to be fed and groomed and bathed and whatnot, as you would expect. But when you go out to the actual adventure mode, and it's essentially just walking your dog in the forest, with a full-fledged world map, I might add, you will come across certain obstacles that you will need to upgrade your pet with via training back at home. Let's say, for instance, he has to build up his strength to move a log, let's say, that is blocking your path. Why you just can't walk over the log is beyond me, but plot conveniences. And you'll learn more about the game world's lore, yes I said lore, as you progress through this. And despite its more cutesy premise, the game is just charming. It's oh so charming that I just can't help but love it. Though I should mention that if you're a PS Vita TV fan much like myself, this game uses the camera functions along with other functionalities of the actual PS Vita, so if you try to boot it, it will crash. So if you don't have a modded PS Vita TV to get around these obstacles, you may want to pass on it. Okay, so the next game that I'm ashamed to like is Aegis of Earth Protonova's Assault. Yes, that's certainly a mouthful, and this is, in fact, as you can tell from the gameplay, a tower defense game, which is something that I've been having a fetish for as of late. Please don't read too much into that. Oh, we're going to read too much into that. So in Aegis of Earth, yeah, I'm just gonna be calling it that three-barrel name, this is a frantic and explosive new spin on the action strategy game, as you plan out and build your defenses as hordes of hulking monstrous creatures bombard your heavy fortified city in an attempt to wipe you off the Earth for good. Hence why, Earth is in the whole name. Very nice play on words there, devs. Now, I think the reason why this is a guilty pleasure for me is because it's a tower defense game that I like that a lot of people out there didn't. In particular, a lot of these gaming websites, because a lot of people felt that the game was a bit too grindy, and because of the whole anime theme, there was a lot of cliches to go along with it. But we are PS Vita at 2 AM. We are just absolute suckers for cliches here, aren't we? Which, okay, yeah, it's pretty tropey. And yes, this game can be grindy, but for me personally, I don't mind grindy games when at least the gameplay is fun, and I'm happy to report that the gameplay in this, at least in my opinion, is quite fun, because it's all about the units in this game, those oh so beautiful units. And rings. Lots and lots of rings in this one, which can combine together a la construction style when the same type of unit is stacked in a line from end to end on various rings. This, combined with the need to build around unmovable buildings or unusable patches of land, brings together a nice strategic layer of the city building portion of the game. Oh, and also worth mentioning is the creatures. The creatures in this game, along with the cutscenes you'll get during gameplay, give me a very heavy Godzilla vibe to it. And I mean that in the very best possible way. Any other Godzilla fans out there? Just me? No? Okay. I think if I was to come up with one negative aspect to this game that I didn't like, is the difficulty. It's a pretty easy tower defense game, which is both a positive and negative, because the creatures, as awesome as they may look, they tend to attack your bases at a snail's pace, and I don't mean that for the better. It gives you plenty of time to set up your units and strategies in order to take them down, which again, if you're a hardcore tower defense fan, you're probably gonna find that a big turnoff, but if you're not, you might actually find the more easier approach to this game a more, well, easier approach. So all in all, grinding aside, I personally really enjoyed this game, and if you're into tower defense titles and own a PS Vita, which I'm assuming you do, then you owe it to yourself to at least give it a try. Next up is back in 1995. No, we're not back in 1995, that's the name of the game. Back in 1995. And for good reason too, because this is a survival horror game that pays homage to those games that were popular back in that era, i.e. especially Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Oh, and when I say it's paying homage to these particular franchises, I mean it's paying homage particularly to these franchises. Tank controls, inventory, visuals, and all. Now you might be thinking to yourself that, hey, this sounds awesome. I love that old style of gameplay. Well, okay, I guess tank controls are a bit of a taboo thing these days in the modern gaming era, but still, for a retro gamer much like myself, and for many of you out there, it's something that you probably will love. And if you don't love it, then, can you pretend that you do for me? It would really help me with my self-esteem. So why is this game a guilty pleasure to me, then, you may ask? Well, that's because it's a game that, as awesome as it may be, didn't quite hit the mark as well as it could have. Because this is a game that is squarely in indie territory. It didn't have that super high budget that many of these franchises had back in the day. I mean, heck, don't expect no Team Silent stuff here. And because of that, it's a little on the short side, and for some odd reason, you don't even get a final boss in this. And that still leaves my mind boggled even to this day. Oh, and I should also mention that the enemies in this game are, well, they're not very scary in the least. In fact, many of them look like potatoes. Nice, golden, ripe, russet potatoes. So playing this game does in fact make me hungry. And yeah, much like with PlayStation Vita Pets, this game just has an amazing charm for me. Maybe it's because I don't see developers in the modern era these days making titles quite like this as much anymore. Don't get me wrong, they're definitely out there, but at least when it comes to the PS Vita, we just don't get games that attempt this much. And this is a game that I do in fact go back and play from time to time, even still to this day. So I would say if you are a fellow survival horror game fan much like myself, you should at least give it a try. It's no classic, but it's a fun little distraction at the very least. Okay, I'm noticing a pattern going on here. First, I had a game that I felt guilty of because of its content, then the other game I felt guilty of because nobody else liked it, then I went back to liking a game due to its content, and now I'm feeling guilty again for liking a game that a lot of other people didn't really like. Yup, if people weren't pointing and laughing at me back then, they're pointing and laughing at me now. This is Trillion, God of Destruction, a game that a lot of people didn't like, but I personally felt was pretty decent fun. Oh, and you're no doubt already getting a Disgaea kind of feel from this game now, aren't you? Now you might be asking yourself, what kind of game is this exactly? Well, that's kind of hard for me to say because it's a mix of a lot of things. I would go as far to say is that it's part sim, part roguelike, and part strategy RPG all rolled into one. And yep, I mean that in the best possible way. Boy, I'm really using that as a shameless attempt to defend myself now, aren't I? Now the story is this ancient mythical creature consumes your world, and now you must train and build relationships with each of your overlords in this challenging, albeit very convoluted when it comes to its gameplay, game. Oh, and you have to actually sacrifice your overlords, you monster, you. So I think the favorite thing about this game is just its out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to its concept. You see, the main villain of this game, which you already have access to at the very beginning of the story, has a trillion, hence the name, HP. Yep, you heard that right, a trillion HP. And the way you defeat him is pretty much up to you. You gotta keep building up your forces in order to keep chipping away at his health as the storyline goes on. And while the monster sleeps, you train. And while you hit said training grounds, you'll be doing kind of the expected things that a normal game like this would be doing, such as picking up auto-generated treasure chests, strengthening your weapons at the blacksmith, and so on and so forth. Oh, and you can date the waifus in this game, so that's always a plus. And you'll also be happy to know that when you replay this game on a New Game Plus, you will carry over your stats. And with over 10 endings to unlock, it's a pretty unique game for what it is. But yet I found a lot of people in the PS Vita community weren't a fan of this particular title, yet for some odd reason when I saw reviews like on, let's say, Steam, they seem to be mostly positive. So I'm happy to see that there are individuals out there who enjoyed this game as much as I did. And I would say if you're looking for for a unique spin on the whole three genres that I mentioned, then I would say this game is definitely worth checking out. And not for $1 trillion though. Don't pay $1 trillion to play this game.
Wow, that's the best pun you could come up with?
On such short notice, yeah. And with that, everyone, the video is now officially concluded. Tell me, how many times did you point and laugh at me during this video? Please let me know that down below, along with your suggestions on what games are guilty pleasures for you. And as always, fellow Vita fans, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It really means a lot to me. Love you all, and I'll see you next time. This video has been brought to you in part by all of these wonderfully generous supporters who help make this content possible. So a huge thank you goes out to Dr. Super Artie, Ricardo Martinez, Donut Valley, Nintendo Switch at 2 AM, Azumara, 1488 Dental, Rizal Pliskin, Buzz Sayin, Saban Fire, Chris Foxhound, Matt Hargett, Mazgas, Tasha Monty, Eric DeWitt, Juan M. Hermosillo, Burzin Mystery, Kayonko, Hector Gonzalez, Jamie, PSP Guru, Starlight Mirror, Lacerated 87, No Good, Aridri, Franz Hartle, David Ray, Wendy K, Hemdahl Imbert, Gutter Drums, Michael O'Connor, H-Hitter, Jelle, Joseph Shavak, Richard Cruz, PS Vita S, Adam Sondi, Hero Acer, Skullshrutugal TCG, Adam Thury, Per Sterner, Silica, JR, Kyle Brooks, Saul Ramirez, Phantom XRS, Rodrigo Vera, Crazy Cat, Heston Joseph, Kevin Enright, Jared Haddo, VG Legends, Clayman Malarkey, BMF, Catherine.uk, Berserker Games, Randy Azadech, Meshuga 360, Shin Snake, Alan Iwazuk, Zakrito, Airkick 72, Bushin Ryu Cat, Milk Sama, Neo Arashi, Reiko Star, Matt Fox, B Mystery, and Makis Blob. If you would be interested in supporting the channel and gaining access to a number of perks, including having your name featured on the end credits of these videos, or if you wish to remain anonymous, that can be provided too, then make sure to check the links down in the description below. I have numerous ways for you to do this down there. Can't support in this manner? Don't worry about it. I also have some affiliate links from both Amazon and PlayAsia for anyone who is interested in purchasing something from them. Basically, the way it works is so long as you use one of those links to just access their website, then anything you purchase afterwards, a small commission will go to help support this content at no extra cost to you, the consumer. I also have channel merchandise available, and of course, as always, likes and shares can help equally as much. And seriously here, how many of you out there did actually point and laugh at me? Not that it bothers me or anything, but I just have to know.
Yup, it bothers him.